Hello. So in yesterday's video, I made some entomology passports using my digital kit. I had two comments in particular that mentioned how I was promoting my kits and how I'm kind of disadvantaging people that don't have any money or don't have a printer. And I've got to apologise. However, I do offer lots of free kits, lots and lots of free digitals. And I also do lots of videos with no kits. I'm trying to offer something for everybody. I'm doing a no kit version today, which I mentioned in yesterday's video. Now, I have already filmed and made one. However, I thought, since it was a brand new day, I will show you the one I made shortly. But I thought I would go into a little bit more detail and make kind of some variations of a no kit version. So the first thing I want to talk about is the cover. And the cover, you need to cut whatever cover you decide to use. You need to cut it 6.5 inches by 4 3/4 inches, or 17 centimetres by 12 centimetres. So that's the size of the cover, and I've cut a few already. So this one is literally just a kind of craft buff coloured piece of file folder, and that will be folded in half, and that's your little passport cover. That's one. This one it's a kind of, I'll show you where I cut it from. This was one of those kind of photo albums, you know, the old ones that you can pick up. Some of them are modern travel ones, which have a kind of textured paper in as well. But this one is a bit of an older one. It was kind of like a scrapbook. It's very tatty. But the paper for that, it's got a little texture to it. It's almost like a fabric texture. So I thought that would make a great cover. This is some paper that I got in Happy Mail, so I'm not 100% sure what it is made of. But it's kind of, it's got a, I'm not sure if it's rag paper, cotton rag paper that's been tea dyed, and again it's got a lovely texture to it. I didn't cut the edges of this one, I tore it, so that's another possibility for a cover. And this one is a little bit more expensive, but it does look fantastic. I had a little offcut. This is Craft Tex. Leather paper is what it's known as, but it is called Craft Tex. It's a fabulous thick material. It's very strong. It does look like leather. And I had a little offcut, so I've just cut a cover for that as well. And what I did with this one is I actually gave it a really good scrunch up, because this is super strong, just to give it a little bit more texture. But I love this. This one, like I said, Craft Tex is not cheap. You can buy smaller packs of it. So that's a possibility. So here we have 4 really nice passport cover kind of options. The other possibility for covers is have a look at your book, you know, the fly pages in books, because this one, again, it's a little bit thinner, but it would make a really nice passport cover. So, and obviously I'm doing entomology passports, but passports in general are really quite popular at the moment. So these would all make, you know, fabulous covers for passports, whatever style you're doing. I actually have a floral version of the passport kit coming out fairly soon. Different kind of colours, different wordings, and lots of floral images. So we need to look at working on the inside. Now I've cut 4 sheets of just tea dyed paper, slightly, very, very slightly larger than my covers. Okay, so we need to kind of look at what we need to go on the inside. And the first one I'm going to do is, it's going to take a minute, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp on the inside. Now I'm going to use green, red, blue and black stamp ink. So I'm just going to turn those over. Now you'll have to excuse my stamps. I'm actually playing around with transferring them into CD covers, which I think is a possibility. I'm not sure, because I do love how I have them stored now. Okay, I've got a digital print that went wrong here, so I'm just going to stamp onto the back of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this field note stamp, and I think I'm going to do it in red first. So I'm going to add my ink to my stamp, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to blot this off twice. So this is going to be very pale, and I'm just going to stamp. So it's very pale. And I'm going to do another one of those, and I'm going to use my blue. And again, I'm going to blot that off twice, but I'm turning it sideways this time. And I'm going to do another stamp. Ooh. And I'm going to stamp there. And all I'm going to do is keep swapping out my stamps. Let's do a black one. Blotting it off twice. And then ink, and then stamping that. Got some more here. This one's a text stamp. I've really pinned myself into a very, very small working space because I've been doing so many different things, and I haven't been I've been too excited to move on to the next thing, so I haven't really cleared up anything. Put a bit more up there. I'm not worried about these overlapping. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to carry on doing this, and I'll speed it up. You can see straight away I made a mistake there. Oh, well, I'm just going to keep going. So I made a couple of mistakes on there, but the majority of it is quite pale, and to be honest, it could have done with being even paler, but I have got two rather large stamps there, but that's fine. I've got an idea of what I'm going to do to kind of hide that. That's the possibility. That's an inside for one. Another one I have is, this is stamp paper, so it's got a very, I don't know if you can see, but it's got a very fine grid on here. So what I'm going to do is just I'm going to make one, and I know I'm going to use this as my guide. So what I'm going to do is just tear this to fit also. So that's a possibility. I'm just going to fold that in half roughly and just check that fits inside one of my covers. Yep, we're going to have to trim, but that's fine. I think one I'm going to leave plain. I think I'm just going to do three. So I'm not going to do the craft one. I'm going to do this one and the craft text. I think these are the three I'm going to use. That one there. I think we'll have the grid paper in the craft text, and we'll have this inside here. I think this one's going to look quite cute. We have a couple of options. We could glue this down together, and we run the risk of this not closing very well because we've got two layers. Or we could literally cut this down the centre, down the crease. And I am going to attempt to do that. I'm not sure how it's going to work. It worked okay before, and take off the tiniest sliver to make that two pieces. And I'm going to do the same with this. Let's work on our plain one first. So I'm going to put a crease down there. Actually, what I think I'm going to do, so I know where to glue my paper, I'm going to fold that back on itself. Take my ink, and I'm just going to ink this edge, this crease down the middle, because then I can see that line really clearly, which is very helpful. Grab my glue and glue this side. Right, so I'm going to turn it around, line this up with that that line and burnish that down. And then I'm going to do exactly the same on this side. I'm going to glue this and then add my paper. Okay, so now all I need to do is just trim these edges off. And I'm just going to ink the whole thing. So that's one of our passport covers. Put that aside. So I'm going to do exactly the same with this one. I'm just using my deckled edge scissors to kind of rough up the edge of this. I probably should have waited until my glue was dry. I just wanted to give it a really kind of tatty edge, and these scissors are great for that. I could have used my Tim Holtz trimmer, but the scissors are a lot cheaper and they do the same job really. Okay, so that is passport number 2. So I'm going to ink this one as well. Okay, so passport number 2, that's that one. So that's 2 of them, the covers and the inside done. Now this one, I've kind of had a little thought for this, and I'm actually going to use this as well as this. So this one's going to be pretty sturdy, because what I want to do is actually add a real book plate to this cover. And you can, so I've got a little book plate, and these were they were actually mini drawer front labels, I think. They were from Amazon. It was a long time ago. I will try and find the link for you. They do actually come with screws and not split pins. So I'm going to find my split pins, and I need to find 2 really quite small ones. Okay, I think I've found 2. I'm just going to try and make sure these fit, which they do. They kind of fit in there. Hold this in place roughly where I think it needs to go. I'm not going to measure. I'm just doing this by eye. And I'm going to put a hole either side of that, like so. Now, just to give this a little bit of extra stability, I know this is only art glitter glue, but I am going to put a little bit of glue around here just to hope that it will actually do some good. Line that up with my holes, and then I'm going to put my split pins through. And put the other one through. And now we have a book plate on that front cover. It's not perfectly straight, but it's good. It's good. I'm liking that. So now we need to kind of reinforce this back piece. So I'm going to need... Okay, I might regret this, but I'm not actually going to cut it. But what I am going to do is I'm going to use Fabri-Tac. It's actually really warm. It's actually really warm here, which makes a change. So it is drying fairly quickly. I'm just going to put a little crease in that and very quickly try and put that into place. I haven't done a perfect job, but that's okay. I can trim. Doesn't matter. So I've got some of the cardstock coming out of that edge, so I'm just going to trim that off. So what I'm going to do now is put my fold back in and burnish that down. So that's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's just ink down the centre here. I'm not going to fold this back on itself like I did the other one. I don't think we've got that kind of option really. So I'm just going to glue these down. And it's going to be a little bit more tricky when I do the other side because obviously it's got the book plate. So it's going to be a little bit more tricky to burnish that down. Right, so I'm going to trim all of this. So we have this one as well. Okay, so we now need to start looking at the inside. Next up, we need to look at the inside, and I think I'm probably going to go with some kind of stamping, but I know not everyone is going to have stamps with lines on. We can use a ruler and a pen. But what I think I might do is I do have a couple of stamps with lines on, and these are Maki stamps. It's M-A-K-I stamps, and they are online and on Etsy. So what I might do is I'm going to grab my stamping platform. I'm not 100% sure that this stamp will actually stick. Yeah, it will. Right, let's have a little go. I think I'll do it on this side. Add a couple of those. Now, I actually don't want this bit along the top. I'm going to put this into place like that. Close that up. Let's use this. Right, let's try and put that down. Ah, no! To move that about a bit now. Okay, give that a push. Hello, cat. Okay, I'm going to leave that. I think that's okay. Now, I've got this other stamp. Oh, hello, cat. I've got this other stamp which has some lines on. Now, over here, I'm going to add my image. I'm just going to use this. So I'm going to ink those bottom two lines on this particular stamp. Take that baby wipe and just remove the ink in the middle there. And put this... Right. I'm actually going to have to do it backwards. I'm going to have to do it this way. That's okay. That's not too bad. So this one, that one I'm just going to leave as it is. I'm quite happy with that at the moment. Might add some more stamps to that later. Now this one, what I've found is I've got out a few pieces of ephemera that I have that have kind of lines, dates, little information on. This one's got some nice lines on. These are little receipts. So the top one is probably not suitable, but there are 3 layers on these. So we kind of have those, which I think might work quite well. It's also quite thin, so I think I might use that. That's also quite nice, and you can see the pattern underneath. Right, so I've got this piece and I've got this piece, and this piece I think will be great to add my image. But then these lines are pretty cool, so I'm going to cut those off. I mean, this is just a case of finding kind of what you have and just playing with your bits and pieces. It's always fun to, so just go through your ephemera, if you've got any old digitals, you know, old receipt digitals, things like that, and just find something that will work. I was lucky enough to have some actual ephemera that I think will work really well. So I'm going to add that there. And it's very thin paper, so you can kind of see through it. Oh, let's add this as well, actually. Let's add that. I'm going to add this. So the lines. I'm going to put that over at the bottom here, like that. What should I add? Okay, I'm going to use my ruler. So I'm going to take off the text at the top here, like that. And I'm going to take off that little side there as well. And again, you can kind of still see what's underneath here. So I'm going to just guesstimate where I want to tear that off. And I'm going to glue this one down as well. Burnish that down, and that will also spread that glue about. So that's cool. And then at the top here, I've got the word note. So I'm going to cut that out. You can find words from books. You could even type them out yourself. If you have a typewriter, you could type all of this in case we want some notes. So that's the inside of this passport. We are going to make this look a lot more realistic later. So that's the two we have so far. And then lastly, we have this one. I've got this book plate, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to add stuff here. But I've got this. I think I might add images this side because it might be a little bit easier. Probably should have decorated these panels before I glued them in. But let's try that. Let's add some stamp. I'm only going to do that top half, I think. I'm just going to ink along the bottom here and try to just line that up and see what I get. See what I get. Not bad. Pretty good, like that. So you could do any stamping onto tracing paper. That would work really well. Glue this into place. I mean, this was literally, I just went through my little drawer of ephemera and found, you know, 2 or 3 pieces out that had lines, grids and things that I thought might work. So I'll just trim that little bit off there. Quite like that. And anything else we should add maybe? Again, we've got some lines on the bottom of this one, so I'm going to cut those off. So we have 3 insides kind of started, and I do think this one is the most effective with that stamping in the background. It does look really quite good. But we have these. So now we have to look for some images. So we'll put these aside for a bit. Right, so I've got a few pages here. These are out of the Observer book of, I think it's moths. So Observer, maybe moths and butterflies, I'm not sure. But this is an Observer book. So we've got some image options in here. There are so many insect books about. I don't think they're going to be difficult to come across. And this is the illustrated book of insects, which we have. I need something small enough that's going to fit. I've already taken a lot of things out of this book. That one, I think. So if I take this page out and this page out, because these go together, my trimmer, I'm going to cut out that particular bug. Just going to trim that again. Right, so I've cut my little bug, and now that's number 3. So I'm going to just cut some of this text on the other side. There's no bugs the other side that I'm interested or worried about keeping. Right, now this says that it's a squash bug and the family that it's part of, and it's this one here. So I'm actually going to cut that word out as well. Okay, so we have 3 little pieces that go together here. I'm going to keep those to one side. And now I'm going to have a look at some of my little moth pages. You can see we have all the information that we could possibly need to add to our entomology passport. So I'm going to cut these little bits out. Okay, so we have all the information for that little moth as well. We'll put that one aside. So I need one more So I found one slightly larger. So I'm going to cut this out, see what's on the other side as well. Okay, just cut these out. And now we have our third bug. So let's have a look at our little passports. This one has the most space on it, so I think I'm going to use the bigger one in that. This one has a tiny little space, so let's use the tiny little bug in that one. And then this one has quite a big space, so let's use that. I'm going to ink the bug to start with, which is in this case a moth. And I'm not going to waste any time, I'm just going to glue this straight in. Now, this is the name of the insect, so I think what I'm going to do, but that's going to go on the front somehow. So we also have this information here. So I can cut this out, and this is very similar to the pieces from the kit. Most insect books will have all of this information, what they're called, the family, etc., the class, the order, and you can, you know, take your pick which words you use. I will try and link these down below, but I do know that the Tim Holtz stamps are very similar to these. Let's use a little scrap of this. I've had these quite a while, and they have been in that little tin, so I'm not 100% sure how these are going to stamp, but let's give it a go. I'm going to use black archival. That's pretty good, isn't it? Pretty good. And I think this will fit. Now, if I can cut this out without messing it up. Okay. And now I'm going to cut that little label out. Okay, let's have a look and see how this would look. And I'm just going to glue this on the front. I think it looks pretty cool. There are lots of label stamps out there. Not bad, not bad. I need to add a little bit more stamping, so I'm going to grab a couple of inks again. So I've got this little stamp here. It's a Tim Holtz Sizzix one. I think this is from the Toadstools. I'm going to put that there. Then I've got this little number here. I'm going to add to the top of that. Now I'm just going to add a number. I think I'm going to do this in blue. Let's put that there. And then this is a little piece of random text. It doesn't have to be perfect. I actually don't want this to be... Ooh! Oh, I've just stamped my jeans. Got ink down my jeans. Right. And I'm just going to add a little bit here, like that. So that is our first passport finished, and I have to let the cat out again. Keep those out for now because I keep coming back to my stamps. I'm actually a little bit in love with this one. I do. I like it a lot. Right, next one. Do we want to do something similar again? Yes, but I think I'm just going to add that straight on. I don't think I'm going to put anything around that. Quite happy with that one. Very simple, quite basic, but another good one done. And now we're on to our last one. And again, we might have a little bit of an issue with some stamping on here because we have our book plate on the front. I think that's pretty good. We'll stick that down. It's quite nice having a larger image for this one. I'm just going to ink this using my brush before I cut this, because it's already going to be pretty small. I think I'm going to stick these over here. And now I need to decide whether I can actually get that somehow in here. Let's just stick it down and see what we can do. So it will fit into our little book plate. I'm going to cut it a little bit bigger than necessary and just see how that's going to look in there. Okay, so all I need to do now that's actually in is I'm just going to run my pencil along the top of that book plate. We can cut that out. I'm going to give it an ink with my brush. After this particular project, it is clean up time. So this video will be out today or this evening at 8 o'clock. Obviously, you already know if you're watching. So there was absolutely no point me saying that, was there? Let's slide this back in. So we have that. Not perfect, but it's the name of the butterfly or the moth that's inside, so that's pretty okay with me. Now I want to do some stamping. I'm going to have my filed. I'm going to do that in black, and I'm going to put that across there. So that's the inside of this one. Now this particular one is going to have to go in some kind of pocket because it's not going to be easy to close. So you can completely leave these as they are. I'm going to give mine a sew, which is a bit of a shame because I'm probably going to end up sewing over that filed. But I'll tell you what we'll do, just to be on the safe side. I'm just going to blot that off a little bit, put some red ink on. And I'm going to do it down the bottom as well. And I think what I want to do is, with my black, all sewn, all done. And we have our 3 little non-kit passports. This one is going to be a little bit tricky. It's a little bit hard, but we can put a clip on that to keep that shut. And this one, and I have to say, although I do love this cover, I think this one inside is my favourite. So I'm just going to show you the one I did yesterday. In actual fact, I'll replace it with one of these. I found it finally. So this one had a little bit of stamping on the front. I did put a hole in an eyelet and added a little charm, and this was the inside. Again, I just love those stamps. I used a couple of different stamps on this one, but that was yesterday's. So today, I'm very glad I did refilm. All I need to do now is actually add one of these to the giveaway journal, because we've got the kit version in here. We've got another little moth thing here. Right, so I think maybe this page, I'm going to have to put it at the top of the page, I think. So I'm going to add it here. I'm going to add a bulldog clip to keep that in place. And then we've got the little moth here, and we've got our little moth book there. So this is now getting rather full. I'm not sure how much more I will be able to put in this, but I hope you like the little passports we've made today. This one's definitely going to, got a clip here. Let's just pop a clip on there to hold it shut. But, you know, this one is the Craftex. This one was the page from the old photo album. And then we've got the one in the journal, which was some, I think it's rag paper. I hope you liked it. I hope those of you that don't have the means to purchase digital kits and print, I hope this has given you some ideas, and you will forgive me for yesterday's video. Please take care. I will see you all again soon.